Hello and welcome. My name is Norma. I am part of Chakra Evolution Yoga with Norma, created originally by Colette Una Kokoran, and I'm also the creator of Urban Crystal in Facebook. So you will find me in Facebook, and so I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what it entails to come to me for a reading, a crystal oracle reading that was originally created by Justin Moikihe Asar. So I'll put a picture of what that looks like with this video, and so it's based on the Kabbalah Tree of Life. And the Kabbalah Tree of Life is a map of our consciousness. So it's actually a map of all the places and aligning with all the chakras and all the aspects or elements of how we bring our consciousness from the divine, from spirit, and balance that out into our heart, and how we survive and embody that, and how we weave through life. So each time a reading is performed, it's delving into the questions that you're actually asking from the cosmos or God or source or energy or whatever you call that, everything that connects everything together, and what your spirit is actually calling in. So your higher self, what you call people call the higher self, is the above chakras, and that there's another name to it. Another name is divine consciousness, or higher consciousness, or consciousness that invokes oneness and connection and togetherness. And so there's no duality in this aspect of us. But what happens is that there is a process, or there is a solution, and there is a weaving through that in order to apply that to our lives in our reality. So the Tree of Life that has come out here, so what's sitting in divine consciousness, is how do I come into my power, and how do I put my action out there? How do I take action? And how can I do this in a potent way so that I am attached to, so that I can feel my body and feel how I'm doing that without having too many challenges come up for me, or overcoming those challenges and viewing those challenges as a component of the way that we weave through life. So what I mean by that is that we've got Tiger's Eye that sits up into the feminine part, or the formation, and then we've got Ruby sitting in the spiritual top of the Tree of Life. So what that actually means, again, is so the part, the intuition that comes through with that is, how do I put my practice out there, or how do I put my purpose out there without feeling like that I'm coming up against challenges all the time? But if a challenge does come up, how do I overcome that? How do I weave through that? How do I go to a place where I am confident that I'm going to overcome those challenges? And what kind of persona do I use, or personality do I use, in order to be that way, or in order to put my purpose out there? So at the bottom of the Tree of Life, we've got malachite, and that's in our physicality aspect. So what that means is that I'm actually, or if I'm reading you, you're actually clearing a lot of aspects in your life. You're using discernment. You're using skills of discernment. So you know where your yes is, and you know where your no is. Particularly where in relationships where you feel like you need to sift out, where you are sifting out toxic relationships in your life. You are setting your boundaries, and you're saying no to being mistreated or disrespected. And you're really finding the solutions, or the causal, or really getting down to the causes of your conditioning, or your any ailments or diseases that you've had. You really weaving through that, bringing it up, and actually knowing how to process that, and just clearing it out of your system. That's malachite. And malachite is also very good with teething issues or with bones and joints, okay? Then your persona, or your personality or your character or the way that you represent yourself is through your heart, and you are really opening your heart to spiritual healing. So what we mean by spiritual healing is that we're using the consciousness of doing what we love and loving ourselves unconditionally, but also invoking joy and just invoking joy, which is an organic aspect of who we are, rather than trying to seek out joy or trying to grab onto joy from the external and bring that in through addiction. You are actually representing yourself as being in a space of joy, and it's organic, and it's healing your heart and opening up your heart, and you're using sound and vibration and this beautiful energy of water and gorgeous energy of community that's helping to support you. So so many people have different ideologies of what healing actually means, but for me it just means being supported and holding and being able to show yourself unconditional love, and that's what actually helps heal us. It's not about chasing happiness outside of ourselves and trying to grab onto that like media and religion teaches. It actually means that we are already joy underneath, and we were innocent and pure in our inner child when we were born, and we knew as children what helped us, what brought us joy or what we loved, and what was toxic for us. So it's more like reclaiming that innocence within us when we have emeralds show up. And then we have labradorite on the lower mental plane, and Larimar on the lower emotional plane. So what we mean by that is that we are feeling like we have a choice in life, and even though we are connecting to our divine consciousness or higher consciousness, or whatever you want to explain that to be, or that mind that is intuitive, like a knowing. So that's another way of describing intuition or higher consciousness. It's like a knowing. You know intuitively the answer. It's knowledge, it's awareness. So labradorite is like telling you that you know that you're being truthful with yourself and you're being really honest with yourself, but you're also making choices out of those aspects of honesty. So the honesty is about facing how we're feeling, how we're integrating, how we're the truth of our reality. We're not kind of using escapism. We're not looking for something else other than what we are in this moment right now. But we're also feeling like we have the freedom to make a choice, okay? If labradorite sometimes shows up in the upper higher aspects, sometimes it feels like you don't feel like you have a choice, particularly when people come in and ask about relationships. What choice do I have in this relationship? Well, I will navigate and break down where you're feeling like that you don't have a choice, or feeling like that you cannot make changes for yourself, or you're feeling like that you're disempowered in terms of relationships that are toxic or destructive, or whether you're wanting to know the future of your relationship. We don't know the actual future of our lives. That's just not. We may have some prophetic insights about what happens in our future, but we can actually change our future in this moment, in this now, and that happens when we are actually feeling like that we're truthful and honest with ourselves. And then moldavite is actually, I'll go back to Larimar, sorry. So Larimar is in the lower emotional. So again, it's about joy, it's about trust, it's about faith, it's about giving yourself to the world in a way that doesn't sacrifice yourself. So you're not actually giving yourself because you want to be liked. You're giving yourself because you know you love yourself first. Okay, so that's the part of Larimar that a lot of women really, really need in their lives, especially when they've been told that they need to be submissive in order to, or put up with suffering, or put up with abuse, or put up with all these things in order to evolve, or in order to have unconditional love. That's actually not unconditional love. Unconditional love is, again, we're going back to the Malachite, is having boundaries for yourself and knowing when your no is and where your yes is, and not feeling guilty when you set those boundaries. People around you will react to that, but that's what actually self-love is nurturing yourself initially, and then setting those boundaries around what you feel is respectful for you. I'm not talking about setting boundaries with like if say for instance someone is depressed and they're needing help and they're needing assistance and they're needing to be held. I'm not saying setting boundaries in terms of oh, I'm not going to hang out with that person because they have a low vibration. No, I'm not talking about that boundary. That boundary is actually dysfunctional. I'm talking about a boundary of respect. If someone is disrespecting you or dishonoring you, then that is a genuine boundary of saying no to that person, and you just, instead of arguing with them or discussing yourself with them or trying to change them or being defensive, it's a straight no and walk away calmly. That's actually how we practice discernment. So this is what's showing up in our physicality. It means that you're practicing discernment, which helps your inner child feel safe within herself and safe or within themselves. So you're beautifully putting that into practice. So that means your child, it can have a space to breathe, to open, to feel joy, to enjoy life, to enjoy nature, to enjoy whatever she loves or he loves, right? For me, it's about enjoying nature, and I love nature. Black onyx is the one that in the Tree of Life that we're finding challenging, and that means being able, like, so how do we become self-aware? I'll just break it down very quickly now. It's coming to nearly a bit over time. So Black onyx, how do we come into self-awareness? We come into self-awareness by allowing our grief that's already sitting in our root chakra or in our base chakra to come up, because a lot of the times we're focusing on our hearts and we're focusing on our intuition and we're focusing on our crown chakra, or the way that we think or awareness, or the way that we move through consciousness through these two areas, but we rarely get to really visit our root chakra because it's quite challenging. We need to have our hearts quite open to unconditional love before we can explore our root chakra. So our root chakra always, you know, we've delved through life trying to survive. So in order to, and so we've shut down emotions, or they were too overwhelming at the point, or we weren't nurtured in our emotions, okay? Emotions are so vital for healing. They're important, they're beautiful, they're ways in which we weave through our life. Our sensitivity is a beautiful aspect of who we are. We're human beings. We need to be sensitive in order to make choices and decisions. So Black onyx is just showing us that we find it a little bit challenging to weave through our grief at the moment and find it hard to bring that up. It doesn't mean you have to bring it up right away. It just means that just to be aware of that, that's the challenge that we're having at the moment. And Moldavite is what's working with us. So we feel like we're welcomed. We feel like we belong. We feel like we can deliver our message. We feel like that we know what our gifts and talents are, and we can put that out into the world. We feel equal to everybody else. We don't feel above or below anyone. When you feel this more than or less than and pedestal yourself, or you feel like you pedestal other people, or you feel like that person is just doing ridiculous things in life and I'm better than that person because I'm spiritual. Moldavite actually teaches you to have that awareness that that person is suffering and they just don't know any better, and that compassion to understanding how society works and how people are just not aware or conscious of how they're feeling on the inside because they've been so shut down, and it's really challenging for people to go into that place. So Moldavite is helping with in terms of knowing that you're equal to everybody else, and you have that aspect of knowing that you're not above anyone else and you're not below anyone else. So you're not playing victim and you're not playing perpetrator, because it's not, you know, when people start pedestaling others, or when you start pedestaling yourself, that the underlying factor is unworthiness. So you're not feeling that way at all. It's working with you. It's working in a way that is positive to your life, and this is how you are weaving with your life. So the crystal, the solution to work through in order to come in with tiger's eye and ruby, is topaz. So we want to be able to feel like that we are manifesting, we are a form of manifestation, okay? We want to feel like that we can manifest what we want in life through divine consciousness, through our soul, through our spirit, rather than what our conditioning, the records that we play over and over again in our minds of what we've been told as children. Is not, say for instance, you've been told you've been dependent on your parent for something, and then you're told it's not enough, and then you're told that it's you know, that there's anger to it, and that yeah, and that you're unworthy. So you want to be able to not manifest from that place that sometimes can be unconscious and locked in repetitive patterns, but come into that place where you're actually opening up your heart and opening up your crown and bringing them together, as well as your root chakra, in terms of manifestation. So you want to manifest from a different line to what you are from conditionings, right? Moonstone is the crystal, as is another solution crystal that's sitting up at the top of the tree of life in spirit. So Mother Goddess is having faith and trust that whatever you put out there into the world, or moving with the rhythms of nature, moving with the rhythms of the moon, knowing the right time to manifest, knowing when you are, so listening to the cycles of the moon and when to actually manifest, and how to move that with nature, and to weave that through nature. So when you're in the seasons and the way that the tides change, say for instance, there's this Aboriginal culture that when the moon is full at a certain time of the year, then that's the time for harvesting, that's the time for collecting. So that's just one example, because when we are actually manifesting, we manifest in alignment with the divine by listening to the cycles of the moon and how they rotate and how they vibrate, and the planets and the stars. And so it's also about listening to how we feel, and listening to how we mother ourselves and how we mother our children, and how we, so if you're missing the component of how you were mothered as a child, then Moonstone is a really beautiful vibration in terms of being honest about how we feel. And it sometimes represents if you're suppressing your emotions, because emotions are important, to bring up those emotions, but in a balanced, calibrated way, so that they just weave and soften into the body rather than feel really tight and tense. And black coral is the possible outcome. So that's light and darkness. So whatever shadows we're facing, whatever we're facing in life, there's it's not perceived as darkness, but it's perceived like these mangrove trees. You know, it's very reflective of how these mangrove trees function, that the roots in the ground collect all the essence of the toxins and the waste that comes up through the roots and cleans out the water. So it's actually the roots are coming up through the water and facing the light, so that they can bring the toxins that are sitting in the darkness, or darkness is not perceived as something to fear, but to have the faith that when you are going in darkness, you're actually going in there to light up your life. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining. That's an example of a crystal oracle reading. I charge $88 per hour, and we can unravel and unpack and undo any question that you have, and that's an example. And then so we can either do it through Facebook Live in Urban Crystal in Facebook is my page, or we can do it via Zoom. I send you a Zoom link in Facebook, and you can pay me via PayPal, or you can use Paywise, or you can or TransferWise, or you can use direct bank details and transfer the money into my bank account. There is a deposit of $50 for the booking, and then we go into the reading. I am in Sydney, Australia, so please be mindful of the times and just check in with me with the times. I don't have a full, my web page is on its way. I'm really taking time to navigate what my web page is going to look like. So thank you for joining again. Mwah.